In the spirit of losing Tackett Curtis, I'm going to talk about the most painful Wisconsin basketball and football losses. So listen if you dare, because this is going to be a painful and therapeutic, hopefully therapeutic session of Locked On Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for making Locked On Badgers one of your first listens every day as we continue to try to build a Badger community. I am Ryan Herrings, your host, and I would also like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. And let's get into it. Let's get into this kind of painful episode. So, inspired by the loss of Tackett Curtis to USC, I thought, let's make it worse. Let's get all the pain out together. Let's talk about the most painful Badgers football and basketball losses that you can remember. My list is not the correct list. It's just my list. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If another one's more painful for you. I have 6 here. This is kind of just a list I put together in my head because I'm kind of annoyed. And I wanted to chop it up with the Badger community. Let me know what y'all think. If you think there's one I'm missing, if one of these shouldn't be on the list, let me know. But let's do it. Let's get into the pain together, right? Because misery loves company. We're all Badger fans. We all experienced this. Let's go. Number 6 for me on the list of the most painful Wisconsin Badgers football or basketball losses. The 2014 Wisconsin-Ohio State Big Ten title game. Yes, that is the 59-0 game. That is the death knell of Gary Anderson. That is the Wisconsin Badgers coming into a Big Ten title game, favored by 4.5 points and losing by 59 to a third-string quarterback. Yeah, that was such a painful game. Because here's the thing, y'all. There's no matter how cheesy the Big Ten title game sometimes is, because it feels like the West sometimes gets an easy lane in. When your team makes it there, you're still super hyped for the entire week, or I am, right? You're watching the promos. Fox is putting on the promo material. You're seeing the game ads. It's Wisconsin, Ohio State, right? They do all the good material. They have the great intros for the teams. We're welcome to the West Division champions, the Wisconsin Badgers, right? It's this really fun lead up as a fan. You're really into it, and you spend the whole week excited about it, right? And you have your food lined up. I have my beer selection lined up. I don't remember what I was eating in that game, but I'm sure I had like nachos and wings out. And then you lose 59-0. And it just stinks, right? It just stinks. I mean, I don't know. Like I would have to check in with Elias or my ESPN buddies, because I used to work at ESPN. I wonder if a team as a 4.5 point favorite has ever lost 59-0 to a backup quarterback. I wonder if that's ever happened in the history of college football. Has a favored team ever lost by 60? Right? I'm telling you, it was such a beatdown. It was so disparaging. It happened right away. There was never any hope. I watched the entire game because I'm a masochist, because I refuse to turn a game off. I watched the entire game, every minute of it, hoping that we could just get one pathetic score to make that game not look goose eggy. To at least, and no, Ohio State, they put it on us. They were playing for a playoff spot, and they mutilated this Badger team. It was horrendous. Zeke Elliott went for 220 yards on 20 carries. Gordon averaged like 2.9 and just never had a chance. Stave was like 17. It's not like he was 17 of 43 with 3 picks. Stave's QBR, quarterback rating in that game, was 9.3. I don't think it goes lower, right? I think, when meteorologists talk about the storm of the century and they're like, the barometer has never been this low. I think that was the Stave game. Like, I don't think the QBR barometer was meant to go that low. 17 of 43 with 3 picks. It's just horrendous. So that's number 6. It didn't keep Wisconsin from playing in a national title game. It didn't keep Wisconsin from that team wasn't going to the playoffs, even if they won that game. But with all that build up to lose by that amount, it was just soul crushing for me. Coming up next, we got 2017 Sweet 16 game, Florida, Wisconsin basketball. That was the overtime game where Chris Chiozza hit that running three-pointer to beat Wisconsin 84-83. Earlier in that game, you had that, it was just an incredible game. You had the Zach Showalter, unbelievable leaning three-pointer to tie it up towards the end. He did the Aaron Rodgers, belt. And it really felt like Wisconsin was going to win that game. They were up 80-73 with a minute 40 left in overtime. 80-73, they were up 7, and they couldn't put it away. They gave up a really quick layup to Florida. They didn't execute down the end. In that game too, if y'all remember, go back and watch this. So Wisconsin is up 2 with 34 seconds left, and they're inbounding the ball. So up 2 with 34 seconds left. And they run this great inbounds play against Florida pressure. They throw the ball over the top to Khalil Iverson, and he gets blocked like one-on-one from behind. And if you remember Khalil Iverson, he was a freight train, ridiculous athlete. The odds of him getting blocked in a play like that, you almost have to go back and look at it. It was unbelievable. That was the turning point in the game. And then obviously you had that big shot by Chiozza at the end. That was a really good Badger team. Nigel Hayes was really good in that game. Ethan Happ was really good. You had Showalter. And it just, God, that one hurt. That one really hurt. And it hurt more because you had the theatrics and the heroics earlier in the game by Showalter to tie it up, right? It's hard to lose those games because you lose your mind when a team, your player and your team hits a big shot. You lose your mind. You think you got it. You can't lose a game like that. And then Florida comes back and they just do the exact same thing to you, and they take your soul. Nigel Hayes was 7 of 14 from the line in that game, so a couple more free throws. Maybe flips it. But I had Vito Brown, who was on that team, fouled out in that game on the show, and he said, "Yeah, we gave that one away," and they did. They did. Up 7 with a minute 40 left, and you lose that game. Oh, brutal. So, yeah, the pain is already flowing. I hope y'all are enjoying this, or maybe everybody's just tuning out. I'm losing subscribers as we talk. I don't know. Listen, as Badger fans, we can circle the wagons on these things because we have shared suffering and shared pain. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on those games. That's my number 6. I'm at number 5. Painful losses. Coming up, a couple football losses that will stick with me really forever. One that cost the Badgers, a chance at the playoffs, and another one that I think submarined what was maybe the best Wisconsin offense in the history of Wisconsin football. So that's coming up next. First, today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. As the sun comes out, things get warmer. Small businesses are opening up. Things continue to grow. LinkedIn wants to make it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. For free, I've used LinkedIn. I've used LinkedIn to land a couple different jobs. It's a tremendous personal asset that I've used, professional asset that I've used. And with this, you're able to create, if you're looking to hire somebody, you can create a free job posting in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs. Reach your network. Go beyond with LinkedIn's network of almost our 810 million professional people. Simple tools, screening questions. It makes it easy to focus on candidates with the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockdowncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockdowncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you, everyone, for making Locked On Badgers your first listen every day. Really, really appreciate it. After this, so Locked On's doing something really fun with BetOnline, the 50 most valuable players in the NFL per the odds makers. So basically, which players move the odds the most. So check that out on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcast. And let's continue the trail of tears, the trail of sadness here. Let's jump into football. So I'm going to go to the 2017 Big Ten title game. Once again, revisiting a Big Ten title game with those dreaded Buckeyes. This one hurt. The 2017 game, Ohio State wins 27-21. This one hurt, because this is really the one time in recent history Wisconsin legitimately was on the precipice. Right, they were right there knocking on the door. They were in the Final Four prior to this game. You win this game, you're going to the playoffs. The Wisconsin Badgers are in the Final Four, and think about what that would do for the program cachet, the program hype, potential recruiting. Paul Chris can sell that. They were right there. And it just was so close to happening. And it felt like so many other games against Ohio State where nothing is quite enough. Everything is so difficult that you have to play an almost perfect game. And Ohio State doesn't need to do that, and they can still beat you. And that's really what that game felt like. The Wisconsin defense was incredible in that game. Forced a couple turnovers. Van Ginkel was great. TJ Edwards was great in that game. Ohio State had the ball quite a bit, and Wisconsin's defense really bowed out. They played incredibly tough, but it was just a little too much. And it's so frustrating because there's moments. So JT Barrett was the quarterback in that game, and JT Barrett was such a winner, the Ohio State quarterback. There was a 4th and 1 in that game that I'll always remember. Ohio State was driving. They were up 24-21, 4th and 1. Urban Meyer goes for it. They run a quarterback power with JT Barrett, which they would do all the time on short yardage. And Wisconsin blew it up. Wisconsin absolutely blew it up, and JT Barrett bounced back, took it off tackle, and cut upfield in between a couple players and somehow eked it out. Like, that dude was such a winner for Ohio State. So that'll probably will always stick with me. And at the end of the day, Wisconsin had the ball. What people sometimes forget about this game is Wisconsin had the ball with 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes, more than 2.5 minutes left at their 29-yard line, down by 6, 1st and 10. That's it, right? If you could move the length of the field and score a touchdown, you win that game. And they couldn't do it. They got to the 40-yard line, the 48-yard line. They got to midfield, 1st and 10, around midfield, about 1:40 left. Again, a touchdown, 50 yards to play in the playoffs if you could get there. And, Michael Dieter had a holding penalty. Listen, I've gone back and watched it. It was a legit holding penalty. He got beat on the inside. He reached around and tackled the guy. And Alex Hornibrook rolled out to his left, threw a ball to Danny Davis, and Danny Davis got tackled, and they didn't call it. Oh. So, listen, Wisconsin got a raw deal on that last drive. There was a legitimate holding call on Michael Dieter that was called, but there was also a holding call on Danny Davis on that drive that wasn't called. And listen, I'm not a ref dude at all. I'm not a ref decides games. There's a multitude of plays within a game that decide the game. It doesn't come down to the end. It doesn't come down to a ref. But it's hard to have that type of mindset when you're watching your team driving to get into the playoffs potentially, and you see Danny Davis get tackled on a play where they call holding on Michael Dieter. So that should have been offsetting. Wisconsin should have been 1st and 10 with the opportunity to continue that drive. Instead, it's 1st and 20. And if you put 1st and 20 with that Wisconsin team, Alex Hornibrook was terrible in that game. Like, that was the death knell. They almost threw an interception on the next play. They botched a screen. Once they went 1st and 20, it was all over. But what a shame. They were so close in that game. So close. And with so much on the line, that one was especially painful. Let's get into the next one. This football one might be my most painful ever. There wasn't as much on the line, I guess, as some of the 2 games I have ahead of it. And there wasn't even as much on the line as the game we just talked about. This was the 2011 Michigan State-Wisconsin Hail Mary. Just to reset the scene, Michigan State is down 37-31. Wisconsin's up 6. Michigan State has the ball, 4 seconds left, 3rd and 1, but it doesn't matter. It's 4 seconds left. Right about the 50-yard line, Kirk Cousins is on the team. And they throw the Hail Mary. It bounces around. Nichols catches it and leans across the goal line, gets a touchdown. Called down on the field, by the way. Instant replay, reviews it, overturns it. Michigan State wins by 1. Let's talk about why this is so painful. Let's break this one down, because this was not a regular season game. Even if you lose a regular season game via Hail Mary, if that's all it was, it's super painful. But you move on. It happens, okay? This team was undefeated at that point. It was the Russell Wilson offense. They were steamrolling, and I am completely convinced that if they beat Michigan State, they also beat Ohio State coming up. I think they slept. I think Michigan State hit this team so hard that they also lost to a pretty inferior Ohio State team. Like, they were just on the mat after this game, and it cost them a chance really at a title, because this offense was so good. People sleep on how good this offense was. I think even Badger fans do. I'm going to do a show on this at some point. I'm going to do a deep dive, but understand that this might be the greatest college offense from a talent perspective in modern college football history. Yeah, I said, I know that's insane. And if you're listening to me and you're rolling your eyes, just understand something. Both receivers from that offense were drafted. Okay. Four of the 5 offensive linemen were drafted. 3 running backs were drafted. Russell Wilson was on that team. So you from the players that played on that offense, you had 11 draft picks. And not guys that were buried in the 2 did not play. I'm saying the players playing. That team was so stacked. And you had a future NFL Hall of Fame quarterback leading it. Are you kidding me? And to lose on a Hail Mary against a really good Michigan State team, by the way. That Michigan State team had NFL dudes all over the map. But to lose on a Hail Mary with that type of offensive capability, it's so heartbreaking. And it's made even worse by go back and watch the Hail Mary defense. This is, first of all, that Wisconsin defense wasn't very good to begin with. Like the defenses we have now, we've gotten spoiled. That was more the traditional Wisconsin defense, the 4-3. That was a solid bend but don't break defense. Just not that good. It had Chris Borland on it. But it was the Hail Mary defense was ridiculous. They rushed 3, but they really spied one guy. I think it was like Bo Allen. I mean, it was some nose tackle in there on an obvious pass rushing situation that you want to rip your hair out if you're watching it. You want to just yell at the Badgers coaching staff and say, "What the bejeezles are you doing here? Put pass rushers in the game." They had Chris Borland at like the 35-yard line in the middle of nowhere doing nothing. Obviously, Michigan State's throwing a Hail Mary. What in the world is your best playmaker, Chris Borland, who was a tremendous pass rusher off the edge? People forget about that because he was an inside linebacker. You have Chris Borland standing at the 35 with like basically his hands on the hip, I guess in case they throw a screen, or they're not doing that. They're throwing a Hail Mary. Put another dude in the end zone. The Hail Mary defense, go back and watch it. It still drives me nuts. It drove me nuts at the time. It was pointless. It was almost like the coaching staff just said, well, Hail Marys are so hard to hit. Why are we going to put thought process into this? They had Jared Abbrederis back at like the goal line, who, again, like, why? Like, Abbrederis is a great receiver. He also wasn't that big. You might as well put so frustrating. Yeah, that one hurt a lot because we'll never know, right? We'll never know what that Wisconsin team would have gone on and done if they had beaten Michigan State. They obviously beat them again in the Big Ten title game. But I think if they beat Michigan State, I am firmly convinced they also beat Ohio State that year. And they probably at least potentially play for a national title. And they were just one bad bounce, one Hail Mary away from getting that opportunity. So, oh boy, we are unpacking all sorts of pain in this episode. Let me know what you all think. If I'm off base on any of these, if you think there's another one I'm missing. I have 2 more coming up. I'm guessing a lot of fans already know which 2 those are. Maybe not. I don't know. But these are the football ones. The 2017 Big Ten title game with a berth to the playoffs firmly on the line and a late drive they couldn't convert. And then the Hail Mary, just the Fail Mary defense in that 2011 Michigan State game. Coming up, the top 2 most painful losses for me as a Badger fan, football or basketball. If you're on the pain train with me, keep listening. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline remains your number 1 source for all your sports betting needs and information. There's a reason we use it at Locked On. Great place for all your futures. And really, if you want to have some fun, do it responsibly. BetOnline is the industry standard for where you're going to want to go. You can do Badgers. Great time to lock in the over or the under, depending on how you feel about Graham Mertz, really. He's the turning point there. But football, baseball, basketball, you can get in on all of those right now. If you have a feel for who's going to win the pennant races in baseball, if you have a feel for NFC, AFC champions in football, if you have a feel for where Kevin Durant's going to land, you can bet on that. Currently, the leading favorite is the New Jersey Nets, him coming back, and then it's Toronto, followed by Phoenix. So lots of things you can do. Also, online Vegas games. All of that is at BetOnline. Use your mobile device. Head to the website today. Learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you again, everybody, as we continue on trying to build this Badger community. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making it one of your first listens. Really, really do appreciate it. I say that a lot, but I also mean it a lot. You can do a lot of things with your time. So choosing to spend a little bit of it here means a lot to me. Let's get into the top 2 or the bottom 2, depending on how you look at it from a fan's perspective. The 2014 Wisconsin-Kentucky game, the one before, the epic one. This one was so painful to me. I was watching at a friend's house. This was the Elite Eight game or the Final Four game. Sorry, I was watching at a friend's house, and a guy that I don't get to hang out with a lot, and we were watching it, and it was going back and forth. The second half of this game was tremendous, just absolutely ridiculously good. It was hit or miss the entire time, and it gets to a point where I felt like Wisconsin had a mental edge on Kentucky in that game. I felt like they were going to kind of take over, and it was a game with Trayvon Jackson was playing a lot of minutes. The next year he won't play as much because of his injury. And you get down to late in the game, Wisconsin, it's tied, and Wisconsin has the ball. They're moving around. They're trying to get a shot up. There's only a couple seconds left in the shot clock. Trayvon Jackson gets the ball, pump fakes, draws a defender in the air, jumps into him, throws a shot up, gets 3 free throws, right? So it's tied. Trayvon Jackson goes to the free throw line, and he misses one, and it was such a huge miss in that moment. I remember saying no, and it came back to bite us, right? Because the next possession coming on down, Kentucky, again, not finding a great shot, moving the ball around. They get it to Aaron Harrison. He's deep wing. He's on the wing. He's guarded by Josh Gosser. There's about 8 seconds left on the shot clock, and Gosser has his hands down, and Harrison just rises up and bangs like a 30-footer. And it was a shot Harrison had hit before. He was a big shot maker. I remember at the time thinking, it's okay. I wasn't overly upset with Gosser not having his hands down, not contesting that shot in the moment, right? Because that's a tough shot to hit. And my buddy Mike Millman, who I was watching the game with, he was like, "No, you have to contest that." And I've gone back and watched it, and I've changed my stance on that. In that moment, with the shot clock 8 seconds starting to dwindle down, Gosser had to crowd that. And credit to Harrison, he banged a big shot, but that one hurt. And then Trayvon Jackson gets the ball, comes back down left side, kind of stops mid-range, tries to bank it off the glass. Tough shot. That was also the era where, and listen, Trayvon Jackson hit a couple big shots, but I never fully understood the Trayvon Jackson needs the last shot experience. I mean, that was a team with Kaminsky, Koenig, Decker, and it just felt like no matter what, Trayvon Jackson was getting the last shot. And I never really understood that rationale and where Bo Ryan was at with that. But yeah, he pulled up mid-range as the clock was winding down, tried to bank it off the glass, and it was close, and it was a tough shot, but it didn't feel like a good shot. And yeah, that really set up the next year. But that loss was really painful for me because that felt like a kind of a magical Wisconsin run. And at the moment, we didn't really know what the next year would bring. So we didn't know if we'd come back with that same type of mojo. Obviously we did. And that leads into the most painful for me Wisconsin loss, football or basketball. It's obviously the national title game with Duke. And this one hurts so bad as a fan, and if you're a big fan, you're always going to have more hurts as a fan than successes, right? Like you're always going to have more lows because it's not often your team wins a natty, if ever, as a Wisconsin fan, right? So you're going to have more losses like this, more big losses where you're right on the precipice than those gigantic program-changing wins. But this was just, I was home in Wisconsin. I was watching at my folks' house. And, Wisconsin had control of the game in the first half. Duke came back, really behind Tyus Jones and Grayson Allen. Jones cooked us, by the way. Tyus Jones had a great game against us. We couldn't guard him. Grayson Allen had a really good second half. I'm not into the ref stuff. I don't think the refs screwed Wisconsin in this game. Refs are always refs, right? There's always calls that fluctuate. There's always calls that tick you off. There's always some garbage calls. I know the ball was out on Duke right towards the end of the second half with Justice Winslow. It's fine. Quite frankly, the Badgers didn't shoot well enough in the second half, and they didn't guard the perimeter well enough, and that's why they lost. They did a pretty good job in the post. Kaminsky had a great game. That was a big time Kaminsky game, 20 plus, 12 rebounds, but Decker didn't show up. And it's not because he didn't try. Like I don't mean to say it like that, but Decker was 0-6 from 3. Like that's it. You're not going to win a game if your NBA lottery wing goes 0-6 for 3, especially the way he balled out against Arizona, right? In the 2 runs. Like he was Wisconsin, him and Koenig were Wisconsin's big shot makers. And to have him go into that game 0-6 from 3 you're just not going to win like that against the national title or against a pretty loaded Duke team. So that game ended, right? And I remember vividly my mom, who is amazing, but and a Badger fan, by the way. Like, we watched the game, but my mom is very much like, oh, they did great, Ryan. Like, she's like that preschool type teacher, that elementary gym teacher who's like, they gave it a good effort. I'm like, Mom, you can't talk to me right now. You and I, we can't have this talk right now, Mom. It sucks. This stinks. And she's like, but Ryan, they were second in the country. Oh, Mom, you can't come at me right now with that. There's a time I'll appreciate this. I don't even know if that time has come yet for me. I haven't been able to go back. And the really sad part about it, right, is the previous game to that, where they beat the undefeated Kentucky team, where they took down this juggernaut. That should have been the national title game, right? That was the Team USA hockey against Russia game, where USA hockey still to win one more game for the gold, but they knocked out the tough one, and Wisconsin knocked out Kentucky, and it really felt like that should have been the title game and not Duke. It felt like that should have been it because that was such a monumental win. But because we lost to Duke, in my brain, and this isn't fair, this is only how I look at it. It is what it is. I'm not asking anyone else to think the way I think, but because they lost to Duke, in a way, it diminishes the Kentucky win for me. I haven't been able to go back and watch the Kentucky win. That incredible, epic win. One of the great wins in Wisconsin sports history. I just can't bring myself to go back and watch it yet. And I want to. I need to, because it's an incredible win. The talent on that court was unreal, but the Duke loss just destroyed me for that. So I ate like a gallon of ice cream after that game, which is one of my coping mechanisms when I'm sad. And I had to leave. I went outside. I just walked around. My parents had like a 40-acre pine forest where they lived at the time. And I just kind of walked around out there eating ice cream. And it took a while. That was a painful loss. And especially from a Wisconsin fan perspective, right? Because when is Wisconsin ever going to be there again? Football or basketball? Maybe never. I don't know. So yeah, that's it, everybody. I don't know if anyone listened to this, actually. Maybe this is just therapy for my own sake, but those are my 6 most painful Wisconsin losses, football or basketball. Let me know your list. Comment below. Tell me what I missed. Tell me if I'm too high or too low on any of these. I really do appreciate it, as always, for everyone who listens. Please, if you like the show, if you want to support it, there's no better way to support it than just to leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. That really does help the show. When you're done here, go check out Locked On Big Ten with Nate Dickinson. He takes you around the conference, get caught up on all the Big Ten news, and a lot going on there for sure. Until we talk next time, appreciate y'all so much. On Wisconsin.